Kay's dad. Pronouns are he, they, from the U.S. Kay's dad, you're live. What is your question for us?
Hey, folks. So I'm just sort of struggling because I grew up in a Christian light family, and my mother has gone back to hardcore Orthodox Christianity. My sister is attending that church, but is saying she doesn't believe. And the issue is that a lot of my family is kind of dependent on my mom. I'm the only one who's sort of left because in no small part due to atheism, and they're sort of getting back into this quasi-religious thing with her. And now dealing with my nephews and nieces who are getting brought up specifically with Orthodox. They like to indoctrinate early with children to further the movement. I don't know how to balance my values with how the parents want to raise their kids. I just find that very, very hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any
so what are you starting to bump into? Yeah. Are there specific places where you're feeling like you have to bite your tongue, or where maybe you feel motivated to intervene but are struggling with the appropriateness? What does this ambiguity look like for you?
Yeah, I'll say specifically in my nephew's family, the father definitely holds to that dad is the head of the family, and there's a lot of that flow down where he'll speak to my sister in a way that I don't appreciate. We've had that discussion, but it also leads to my nephews speaking to their sisters the same way, that because they're boys, they get to do things, and that's just the way that it is. There's the creation narrative, and they're on some Christian homeschooling education as well. So that's part of it, where they just come up with ideas when we're together that just don't comport with reality. And I struggle when I have that after meeting handing them back over of, oh, well, we heard that you said this. That's not what we believe. You need to respect us. We respect you.
So I guess the dilemma is that they are coming in and maybe correcting you for the things that you're sharing with your kids. I'm sorry, I'm still not quite following where the tension is exactly. Although it does sound like a very messy environment to exist in.
Yeah. So as an example, taking my nephews to the zoo, we were going through the primates, and I sort of just mentioned that, we're monkeys too, and they just didn't know what I was talking about. So I thought I was having a funny moment with them, and my parents, their parents, just came right back afterwards with, "You're telling our kids that they're monkeys, and that's not true. That's not true." And it just became a messy thing of, I thought we were having something that is true and was sort of an in the moment thing, but it just dials up to 11.
Yeah, I hear that. And, I think the kind of guiding principle here is that your access to them is going to be mediated by their parents. And that's, perhaps a messy idea, but maybe as it should be. These are definitely complicated issues. I think that it is maybe foolhardy to try and sneak something in or try and convince them on the sly, but it doesn't sound like that's even what's happening. Rather, just you being you and wanting to connect with them and communicate with them is drawing up a lot of strife. And that sounds like a really miserable place to exist. I'm not sure exactly what guidance I can offer you beyond to really commiserate that sounds like a very narrow parapet to have to walk down, and that as valuable as it is for you to try and accommodate them while also living up to your own values, it may enforce some limitations on these relationships and just how close you're able to be to these children or to other people in your family.
Yeah, I was just thinking that you're going to have to kind of make a decision of what boundaries you all are going to set with each other. Not necessarily with the children, but between all the adults, and figure out, do these parents want to keep having your kids go to you if things are going to happen? Are you willing to kind of dial back a little bit to make sure that the relationship keeps going? And you're going to have to decide kind of what you're willing to compromise, because on the one hand, if you don't really want to compromise. You just want to keep saying the same jokes, and then their parents decide, we don't want you to watch the kids anymore. We don't want the kids to be around you anymore. That might limit kind of the influence that you're able to have on them in the future, where maybe taking a step back, censoring a little bit like right now, may provide you more opportunities to kind of mentor them and kind of just innocently slide some more things in. And even like just certain questions that maybe they'll be able to ask their family, and they might get to a point where they just start asking more things, which isn't it. I mean, sure, it might come back to you, but it also is just kind of expected of kids that they're going to grow up and ask questions. But if they start asking questions, that's not something that can be undone. And that might be a positive thing for them in the future. So I think you'll have to play the game a little bit of like how this is all going to go. And I'm sorry you have to do that. You shouldn't have to. But in that, you may have more of an influence that these people won't pick up on. That could just be beneficial for everybody. So
I appreciate that.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I try to buy them, not necessarily atheist things, but, asking questions and being curious and building things and critical thinking to try to come from the side. When they ask, why don't you go to church? The agreement we have is just say you go to a different church. And so we don't even get to that level, but, I guess it's just something where I'll have to try to, like you said, define those boundaries.
Yeah. Well, anything else we can help out with?
Sounds like I have some work to do on my end. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, thank you for calling in. And if you have any updates, let us know.
Sorry to hear it. It definitely sounds like a uncomfortable and challenging place to be.
Yeah, I think especially this brand, we grew up Episcopalian, and now going to Orthodox Christianity, it's a much more hardline community that they're in, and they're in a very conservative area. So I think there's a lot of overlap that, maybe doesn't apply to this call.
Yeah, that's interesting. Kind of how this goes for you.